Hello everyone, welcome to the channel if you're new and welcome back if you aren't. I'm EDJ and today I'm going to be reacting to another Dovahadi series, from what I've seen, the very short-lived Byzantine series. And apparently, I haven't looked too much into the issue, but apparently he was depicting a Middle Eastern group with the Arabs or something. I forgot exactly, and apparently YouTube had an issue with how he was depicting them, resulting in the series never fully being finished. I mean, he made a 6 hour long stream. I suppose that's the finishing of it, but he couldn't do it in his traditional way. And I guess quite frankly, I might get in trouble for this from YouTube. I don't know, but come on, guys, lighten up. like, Nova Hottie, obviously the shtick is it's very biased, right? That's the entire shtick of his Unbiased series, and, he kind of, other than the group of people he's following, for example, the Romans, everyone else is either lame or evil, like how he depicted the Germans and the Sassanids as evil demonic beings from the netherworld, he makes fun of every group, and that's the joke. I mean, I'm Christian. He called the Christians Christ. I don't want to say the last word. I don't know even if it's a bad word. I don't cuss just naturally, but either way, he made fun of the Christians, and I wasn't even offended at the slightest. It's just a joke. Lighten up, YouTube. Watch my channel be got in like a day. But point is, yeah, it's a real shame. Guys, just learn to take a joke. Just enjoy it for what it is. I don't know. I just hate it when that happens. But what can you do, right? So the Byzantines, aka the Romans, because that's what they are. The Romans, the continuation of the Roman Empire is the Byzantines, because they are the eastern half of the Roman Empire. And yeah, like I mentioned, I know that they refer to themselves as Romans. Like the Byzantines, I remember when I was just randomly Googling, I remember reading this up. Again, I don't know how accurate this is, but point is, it's like that the term Byzantines and whatnot was coined later by other people to describe them, but they were Romans through and through. And like I said, with the Rome series, there are times and episodes where I knew exactly what was going on. I knew a lot about the Constantine and his contribute and what he contributed to Christianity. I knew a lot about Augustus and Julius, and I'm completely blind now. I knew some stuff about Rome, and I knew some certain episodes where I could give a lot of insight to, but this completely, I don't know anything about the Byzantine history. I know a little bit about their fall. I know that I believe it was the Third Crusade that really kind of screwed them over when the Christians essentially just sacked them from within, and that was kind of, some people call that the fall, but others say is when Mehmed officially conquered Constantinople. I mean, there are several points you can just say the Byzantines were gone, but either way, that's probably that. I don't even think he gets that far in this series, obviously, unfortunately. But again, what can you do? So we'll see. I'll watch all these Byzantine reactions, and hey, if you want me to react to the live stream, at least portions of it, I definitely will. You know. And yeah, that's about it, guys. Let's get to it. Let's watch some more Unbiased history on the history of Rome, or the Byzantines. Oh, by the way, Merry Christmas, everybody. Alright, let's get to it. Wait, just to be safe. Okay, good. Yeah, just being safe with the audio, I have a new microphone. Oh, you can see it right here. But yeah, I have a new microphone, and I have a new, keyboard and mouse, so things might sound a little different.
The year of our Lord, 476 AD, the year civilization fell. After a millennium gracing the world with order and prosperity, through treachery and evil, barbarians were beyond the gates, and ushered in their long-sought Dark Age. Such was the fate of the West, its citizens doomed to despicable acts of cruelty, imposed ignorance, and the tyranny of their new barbarian overlords. But while Rome may have fallen, the Eastern Roman Empire, Constantine's legacy yet stood, the defenders of Christianity, and the last bastion of Greco-Roman civilization. Even though it was ruled by Zeno, a civilized Isaurian, those being the barbarians that still lurked in the Anatolian mountains. If you recall, it was to Zeno Odoacer sent the proclamation of the fall of the West, and given the absolute state it was in, no wonder. But that didn't cover the piles and piles of crap that filled Zeno's reign before and after. Remember that traitor that ruined Leo's invasion of Africa? I won't even bother with the time that he revolted and lost thanks to the turncoat Isaurian general, Ilus. I will bother though with the fact that he was a Monophysite. And what's a Monophysite? Decades back, while Aetius was busy saving the world from the Scourge of God, Attila, the other Scourge of God, Satan, was as always working towards destroying the church and ushering in hell on earth. His current plan to divide the church and thus the empire was by leading fools into believing a neo-heresy. That is, remember the irrefutable truth that Christ has two equal natures, human and divine? Well, now there were satanically inspired idiots saying it was just one nature, a fused divine human nature thingy, thus called the Monophysites, or idiots, pick one. All this heretical garbage was of course refuted in the Council of Chalcedon, condemning Monophysitism as the heresy it was. But that didn't stop many fools in Egypt, Syria and Armenia from falling for the satanic plot, and thus a schism was born. Zeno would desperately come up with an act of union trying to compromise with the heretics, but it didn't go far, mostly because among all the treachery, revolts and earthquakes of his reign, even one by Anthemius' son, which failed, thanks to Ilus, the empire remained divided in more ways than one. But you know what, forget about the Monophysites for a second, because the Arians were still around, those being the hordes of barbarians Arius' followers preached to, who, attracted to satanic heresy, converted en masse. Out of all of these heretic barbarians, Zeno had to deal with two Ostrogoths, a treacherous mercenary, Theodoric, and the Ostrogothic king, Theodoric. After failing to trick Theodoric into fighting Theodoric, Theodoric eventually marched on Constantinople, looked at the walls, ransacked his way away, then he fell from his horse, into a spear, and died. With Theodoric's death, Theodoric's men joined Theodoric's horde, who would henceforth be known as Theodoric the Great. All this while Verina, Ariadne's mother, the wife of Zeno, had revolted and been arrested by Ilus, incurring her wrath. After surviving an assassin from Ariadne, Ilus retired to the east, was named Magister Militum, and then he revolted, don't ask me why. And who did Zeno send to fight him? Theodoric, who then crushed him. And why did Theodoric agree to this? So he could then revolt next to the capital and attack Constantinople, and fail. As was barbarian tradition, after failing to take Constantinople, the barbarians took the bribes to piss off and became the West's problem, Odoacer's problem. Theodoric did just that, ransacking his way into Odoacer's Italy, who, lacking the powers he got from his long-gone master, Odoacer convinced him to join forces together in a barbarian alliance to tyrannize Italy. Then Theodoric killed him, and all of his minions. Truly, a dark age. Thus was born the Ostrogothic Kingdom of Italy, and before I vomit, let's focus on the Vatican, where the illustrious Pope resided. Relevant to us is that when he heard of Zeno's act of union, he refused to adhere to this compromise with heretics. In fact, he excommunicated Christians that went along with it, and started a schism with the East over it, to Satan's fury and delight. Zeno wasn't just hated by true Christians though, but by his wife, and most people, for being Isaurian, remember? In fact, once an illness rendered him weak, the people just carried him off one day and buried him alive. For 3 days he screamed for mercy before running out of air. Such is the fate of those who compromise with heretics. In what would become the standard, the next emperor would be chosen by those in power, acclaimed by the plebs in the Hippodrome, and confirmed by the Patriarch of Constantinople. This time falling to the emperors to choose, the plebs began screaming, "Give us an Orthodox emperor! Give us a Roman emperor!" Agreeing to this sentiment, Ariadne then began searching, trying to find a man who would make a good emperor, not just a husband, and after much contemplation, she had found him. The finance minister, Anastasius. Tall, handsome, smart, rich and popular, behind this 60-year-old Illyrian lies an important tale. For back when he was about to be born in Illyria, the devil sought to corrupt this promising prodigy to his side. But alas, Anastasius' mother overcame the curse set on him.
I just love that, like, With the Roman series, it was like the gods were so prominent, and now it's just Satan's there. I don't know why, I just find that hilarious.
For the most part. Because of the leftover satanic influence, he was cursed with one pitch black eye, and much worse, a predisposition for heresy. This literally dark side of him well known, the Patriarch made him vow to not betray the Council of Chalcedon, which he agreed to, and so was crowned as the Emperor. Which meant that Zeno's brother, Longinus, would not be emperor. And we care about him because he funded the chariot racing teams in the Hippodrome, the Blues and the Greens. For hundreds of years now, the plebs were appeased by chariot races and such games, and by then only two teams remained, the Honorable Blues, representing the imperial system and orthodoxy, and the despicable Greens, standing for the degenerate plebeian masses and heresies like monophysism. Goes without saying, the Greens constantly rioted and engaged in violence, even more so with their patrons scorned, who by the way had returned to the Sarian Mountains, revolted, got crushed by Anastasius' legions, stirred trouble for years, and then was killed. In fact, Anastasius sent the new imperial guard, the Excubitors, to fight. The Palatini were just parade troops by then, and among these Excubitor guards was the new commander he promoted, Justin. Yet another Roman Illyrian of humble origins, Justin got tired of barbarians constantly invading his property, so he moved to Constantinople, joining the imperial guard as it was forming. Quickly becoming an officer, he had his family move to the capital as well, including his sister and recently born nephew, Flavius Petrus Sabatius, and his sister, vowing to give him the best Roman education money can buy. And with power on his hands, Anastasius dedicated his life to the most important thing on existence, the economy. Channeling his inner Domitian, Anastasius did everything to spend less and gain more. For the first time since Diocletian, plebs were made to pay taxes in cash, not kind, having revived the old copper currency that had been destroyed by debasement in the 3rd century. He constantly lowered and abolished taxes, cracked down on corruption, and eliminated inefficient middlemen, causing a huge increase in revenue, piling up every single penny he could in the treasury. This economic boom went right along with the Christianization of the filthy, still pagan plebs, now taught good Christian morals, including that constant breeding is a virtue and that infanticide is a sin. The population also boomed. With so much damn money pouring in, Anastasius made an exception and increased the soldiers' pay, attracting more Romans into enlisting, thus further diminishing the preference and need of barbarian mercenaries in the army. Every single day he refused to waste money on entertainment garbage, especially plebeian entertainment garbage, greatly infuriating the chariot-loving plebs. They would revolt left and right. It came to the point that one day, after the Blues gathered after yet another great victory, the Greens surrounded them in mass and slaughtered countless Blue fans, among them one of Anastasius' bastard sons. Furious at the news,
typical sport fans, am I right? I'm just joking. Don't attack me. Oh man, but that's insane. Like that needs to be dealt with like immediately.
Anastasius proclaimed a series of bans to punish the plebs, like outlawing the use of wild animals for spectacle and banning pornographic dancing in the brothels of the empire. One day, he got so angry at the constant rioting he said he would resign right then and there if they could immediately appoint a better emperor. The rioting then stopped, and the plebs dispersed. Watching from a distance was the Sassanid emperor, Kavad. Seeking only to start hostilities, Kavad demanded Anastasius to pay him to guard against the Huns. Knowing he would refuse, which he did, so Kavad invaded the empire. In response, Anastasius launched the biggest eastern army since the apostates' reign. Commanding it were generals like Justin, and others, like Hypatius and Vitalian. Just your average Sassanid war, really. The Persians took some border cities, the Romans arrived, some back and forth, a plebeian general messed up, the emperor sent some reinforcements, the Sassanids overextended, got pushed back, and peace was restored, however momentary. Anastasius then used his money to build a huge fortress.
That is legitimately how every Sassanid invasion since like they were introduced to this series has gone. They come in, they get kicked out, and then everything's chill for a while.
In Dara, which the Sassanids never ever stopped bitching about. And in the west, the redeployment of legions allowed, get this, the Slavs and the Bulgars to invade the empire. Now, the Bulgars did kill the Magister Peditum, but like the Slavs soon left, they didn't see a reason to stay there. The aggression of these new barbarians led Anastasius to build the Anastasian Wall, a structure you didn't hear about because it didn't last long. Indeed,
Uh,
increasingly Anastasius failed to keep his devilish curse at bay, and more fell to Satan's influence, culminating in Anastasius giving into heresy and replacing the Patriarch of Constantinople with a Monophysite. Seeing his beloved emperor partially fall to satanic heresy, Vitalian revolted to restore orthodoxy to power. He did beat an imperial army, but was later beat by Anastasius' forces, sending him north, and Anastasius had enough self-control to not hunt him down. Gradually returning to normal and curious over who would succeed him, Anastasius hid a "you shall succeed me" letter under a chair and summoned his nephews, letting God decide through random chance.
are you
Then none of them sat on
serious?
it. The hint taken, he just prayed and prayed for an answer, concluding the first person to pass his door would be the next emperor. In came Justin, and that was that. Assured the empire would be on.
I don't know if that's legit or though, but that's quite a lot of chance to take, right? But yeah, is it? I'm wondering if this is the same Justinian. Yeah, Justinian I've heard of and considered one of the great emperors. I can't go through everything he did, but yeah, I've heard of Justinian. I just wanted to be sure it was the same guy really quick. That's why I didn't comment earlier.
In good hands, the 87-year-old Anastasius finally let himself die. In total, Anastasius had left 320,000 pounds of gold in the treasury, and now
Holy
the question
crap.
was who would be the one to enjoy it. I mean, we know, but they didn't. As always, the devil tried to ruin everything by having some Monophysites try to bribe and shield their way into power. The most important person to bribe, though, was the commander of the Imperial Guard, of course. And when Justin caught on to what was happening, he used the money he was bribed with to counter-bribe the bribers, thus nullifying their bribes. When they all gathered to decide the emperor, the Monophysite bribers were ignored, and Justin chosen in their place. Justin was thus proclaimed the new Roman emperor, cheered for what he was, an ultra-faithful Orthodox Christian. And as such, he had Vitalian recalled and pardoned, and what's more, started a vicious persecution against heretics. Arianism was finally banned in the empire, and all Monophysites in government were kicked out, banned from joining the army, humiliated socially and financially wherever they dared show their face, including the wannabe emperors. The news of persecutions and slaughter of heretics in the east greatly cheered the Pope, and so, after decades, he agreed with Justin to end the schism with the east. Whereas in the west, barbarians like the Franks had taken over Gaul, and Theodoric inherited Visigothic Spain, with the Vandals still occupying North Africa, with their new king, Hilderic. Surely enough, after the Vandals had sacked Rome, the remaining Theodosian family was brought over. Genseric would outlive the Western Empire for a little, and after Eudoxia was thoroughly raped by his son, he produced Hilderic, the half-Roman, half-Vandal. As Stilicho, he was not. But he was still half Roman, being somewhat able to see the light, welcoming true Christian missionaries into Africa, something his heretic barbarian kinsman detested. As for Theodoric, in a scheme to subvert the East before he died off screen, he sent his son-in-law to be adopted as a son by Justin. But that didn't happen. Instead, Justin adopted him as a barbarian, aka not an heir. For Justin already had an heir, his now greatly educated nephew, who he had adopted as his son, giving him the name Justinian. A
Oh,
genius
dang it, I
given the
was wrong.
means to study it all, he became an expert on 3 fields of Roman excellence. Studying law, he understood what separated civilized men from savage barbarians. Getting acquainted with high-level theology, he adhered to Christian principles and never gave in to heresy. And by reading history, he got really happy and inspired, and eventually depressed and outraged. Called a man who never slept, he spent all days and nights perfecting his knowledge about everything, except military affairs. That would be delegated. A descendant of
Yeah, that's smart. But man, almost like kind of reminds me of Marcus Aurelius. Yeah, at least in terms of being studious. And I'm really looking forward to learning more about Justinian because I believe it's him and his wife. What's her name? Let me quickly check. Yeah, Theodora. Yeah, these two I think might be the most popular of the Byzantine Empire. Like I said, most I'm not sure about other places, but in the US we really don't learn anything about the Byzantines. Most we get is Rome, but I already mentioned we mainly only learn about the early Julio Claudian dynasty. It's only really Julius Caesar and Augustus, quite frankly. That's kind of it. There are that's the education system doesn't focus too much on that. So yeah, again, like everything in terms of Byzantines that I've heard in my life has had to be like either on my I've heard off on other videos, or I've had to look into myself like regarding its fall and whatnot. And yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, I knew about how the effects of the Crusade and how it basically crippled the Byzantine Empire. That I learned from one of my old Christian teachers, and yeah, that's really about it. So it wasn't even in class, it was more like just we were talking one day, and she just told me about that. So yeah, overall, I'm looking forward to learning more about Justinian and seeing the more intimate facts of what makes him so remembered.
Of Roman settlers in Moesia, he had grown up hearing of the fall of the West, of the sacrifices of Aetius, Stilicho, and Majorian, of how a 1,000-year-old legacy had been destroyed by barbarous monsters. The indignation, the refusal to accept the losses sparked a fire deep within Justinian's soul, and fueling that raging fire was a dream. A dream to avenge the heroes of old, a dream to restore what had been lost, a dream.
I believe there is a Byzantine emperor who attempted to take the West and actually got pretty far. I remember just seeing that in a random YouTube short. Like it showed like one of the Byzantine emperors managed to actually gather a lot of the old land from the western half. I guess trying to re-get it, and I'm wondering. um, excuse me. I'm wondering if it's Justinian or one of the others. I guess we'll find out. I think the saddest part is just seeing, like, you seen those videos on YouTube that shows like an empire through the years or the history of man, and then it's like a map, and then you'll see like the influence, and then as the empire slowly shrink, that's literally the Byzantines. It's like one of the saddest things to witness.
To purge this rotten world. Of like at least 2 barbarian hordes, that would be a start. All that time studying made him develop a taste for hard work though, and since every emperor needs an empress, Justinian began searching for a woman that would really push his limits. Alas, his prostituting farmers told him of one such woman was nearby, and he went to find her. Looking for a plebeian degenerate, but not so degenerate he couldn't civilize and love, he searched for the perfect mix of great and awful, landing on a super hot prostitute, smart, monophysite plebeian divorcee, Theodora, the love of his life. She of course fell in love as well, and Justinian would seek to make her a faithful Orthodox patrician wife, failing in only one field. Now, it was illegal for patrician men to marry plebeian women, of course, but Justin changed the law such that worthy women could be allowed to, if given permission, which was granted. Soon to become the couple that ruled the empire, Justinian came to enjoy appeasing the masses, throwing massive games and always cheering for the imperial blues, while Theodora didn't. Back to Theodoric, as his schemes failed, death neared, and Justin outlawed his Arian heresy, Theodoric behaved like, well, a barbarian. Cruelly persecuting good Catholic Christians through Italy, he came to the Pope one day and ordered him to go east and demand that heresy be made legal again. Justin then eagerly greeted the Pope, celebrated Christmas with him and Easter, and let him return with some minor concessions at hand. And for this, Theodoric threw him in a dungeon, letting the frail Pope abandoned until his death. The Italians had long despised barbarian rule, and now more than ever yearned for the empire to return. They were not alone. Justinian desired it far more. Lucky for him, he had just gotten to meet a genius new recruit in his executor guard, another Illyrian legend, Belisarius. A military genius indeed, and it was so obvious that Justinian granted him authority over his own regiment. Justinian, however, prepared for his own battles he would fight against the dark brother he had grown up with, Khosrau, the Sassanid prince. You see, the Sassanids had recently spread their barbaric tyranny to the Caucasus, and the spooked king of a Sassanid client state over there thus chose to change sides to the Romans, converting to Christianity. Kavad complained and complained, but Justin just ignored him. Enraged, Kavad came up with the same idea as the now-dead Theodoric, sending his son and heir to be adopted by Justin. But he did the same as before and adopted him not as a son, but as a barbarian. Khosrau would then grow up together with Justin, learning whatever he could all secrets and weaknesses. But Kavad had become offended that the Sassanids were being treated like barbarians, you see. And thus the barbarian king of the barbarian empire committed a barbarous act and raised his barbarian hordes to commit barbarities against the barbarian's age-old enemy. The barbarian didn't invade just to kill non-barbarians though, for the old decrepit Justin had recently died, and we all know what that means. As had been the case with so many uncles in Roman history, the day their nephews were acclaimed as Emperor of the Romans, great triumphs were soon to follow. Justinian would deal with the, 1 trillionth barbarian invasion of the empire, but it would not be against the barbarian Sassanids his great triumphs were to come. It had been but half a century since the fall of Rome in the West, and despite the monumental challenges he would face, the reign of Justinian the Great would focus on one thing above all others. The legitimacy of his reign secured by his father, the legions purged the barbarians and under their best general in ages, the imperial coffers full and ready to fund great ventures, Justinian would give us all to fight against the currents of time and restore Rome to its former glory. Or at least kill a lot of barbarians trying.
Alright, guys. So I'm really looking forward to learning more about Justinian and what exactly makes him, so remembered. And yeah, that was really cool. And oh, by the way, make sure to subscribe to Dovahadi. The original video will be down in the description. The link will be in the description down below. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye, everyone.